Hockey Town, it's a place where dreams are found. We fought so many battles here, now we're the ones that they will fear. The cup resides within our town, we won't stop no letting down. The cup is ours for all to drink, it's our time, let's rock this ring.
Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Hockey Town Rundown. You are here with us, your beautiful hosts, once again, Carlo and Zach. Carlo, it's wet, it's damp, it's rainy, but do you know where it's not cold,
right
damp,
here,
rainy?
Right here.
In our rooms, in our hearts, because the Red Wings won a game again. Just wish they could do it more consistently and back to back. But a dub's a dub. Dub's in the chat.
Dubs were in the chat, which is great. And you know what? I'll say this before we jump on into it. That was the game to really springboard whatever's in the tank for the remainder of this season. Like, that's the game to push from, because that was pretty awesome. And yes, I'm talking about the Philadelphia game, of course. Joking, the Toronto game. That was awesome.
Carlo, other than that, why don't we just go ahead and jump right into it? And so we will obviously be recapping the games up on the scoreboard against the Buffalo Sabres, the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. We will go in depth on our main topics with the Red Wings news and then around the league news. Carlo, let's go ahead and jump right into it with the game against the Buffalo Sabres, where you did have Villie, Husso, and net. The Sabres do score early, but Cat and Kopp had different plans and score right after to make it a 2-1 lead. Raymond then makes it 3-3. Kopp makes it 5-4. Seider ties it up 5-5 to force OT, which goes into a shootout. And Raymond and Larkin score with Cossa making 2 of the 3 saves to secure the 6-5 win. Yeah, Sebastian Cossa had to come in to relieve for Villie Husso after he surrendered 3 goals against on 7 shots on net. But with that win, Carlo, Sebastian Cossa is the first goalie in history to win in his NHL debut via a shootout and relief effort. Overall, Carlo, thoughts overall about the game?
That game was crazy, dude. Sucks. I mean, I guess I'll start with Cossa. Like, it was really cool for him to play. I've been all over the train of don't play Cossa in front of this defense, behind this defense. But obviously, he got called up for a reason. He is as good that we could all hope that he could be, and he really is. And I think he showed that, because he did eventually get the call to come in. Yeah, I mean, that's the position every backup goalie's in. If the starter goes down, you're kind of the next man up. You got to go in. It just sucks that it was that I guess drawn up that way, or I guess lack of drawn up, because it would have been nice for him to get a actual start, have his family there, and do the thing.
The pretty painted picture.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I think he's deserved that. If he's deserved anything, he has deserved that. And the guy's a gamer. Like, his post game was great. Like, he's just such a very cool and collected dude. But nonetheless, he came in. I was nervous. I was very nervous. And frankly, he looked a little bit nervous too for the first few shots that he faced. But he did seem to settle down and kind of find his footing and whatnot. And I thought he looked pretty good. I thought he looked pretty good. On the other side, standard James Reimer. Just standard James Reimer. I mean, he lost us a game in very similar fashion to the way Buffalo lost that game. Let's be real. But the one thing that stood out to me about that game the most was, I think that was Moritz Seider's best game as a Detroit Red Wing. He was crushing people. He was all over the ice. He was playing with bite. He was so pissed off, it looked. And the goal he scored was money. It was Momo money. And I was really pumped for Moritz Seider, because he looked awesome. And he showed some raw emotions after that goal. I loved it.
Do you think any of that was influenced because Sebastian Cossa came in? Do you think that Moritz Seider upped his game because of that?
Yeah, you know what? That's a great question. I'm so glad you asked it too, because I think a lot of the players on that team leveled up when Cossa came in.
I agree.
I think the whole team looked a little bit different. They looked like they had a little bit more energy. They looked like they had a little bit more bite. I think Seider probably had the most out of everybody, considering the way he played and what he was doing out there. But Yeah, I thought that though Cossa came in and you saw a change. There was 100% a change in the way they came out and played. So yeah, but honestly, dude, I thought it was an interesting game. I mean, there were still some boneheaded mistakes that happened, obviously leading to the score that we saw, but we got to the shootout. It's anybody's game at that point. Cossa was the better shootout goalie. He looked really good. By the time the shootout hit, he was like dialed in. He looked fantastic, and Dubs in the chat, and it was just a great night from there because I was just so happy for Cossa. I was pumped up about Moritz Seider, and the rest of the team just leveling up. It was really fun to watch that game.
100%. And Andrew Kopp must have listened to our last episode because what was it, 18-game hiatus? He finally gets a goal, and then as we continue on, we learned that he scores multiple goals again. So, yeah, we got players stepping up this game for sure. And I'm just going to say real quick, I do believe that Sebastian Cossa should have started this game, and we'll talk about it. I'm going to ask a question, but only because, Carlo, can you even tell me when the last time was Villie Husso started 4 games in a row?
See, that's the other part, too. Like, if there was a game for Cossa to actually come in and start, it was that game, 100%. Because of that point.
Yeah, the follow-up question that I have to tag along with that, do you think the Red Wings still would have won this game if Cossa did start this game? Do you think the game would have gone any differently?
Well, considering the way they came out and played when Cossa was in the net, maybe they started the game like that. Maybe, I mean, who knows, right? But maybe the Cossa gets the start and the Wings come out high energy right out the gate, as opposed to starting to really kind of tilt it in the second period when he came on. I mean, yeah, that's a tough one, dude. It really is. But I do think that they should have managed Husso a little bit better in terms of his workload, and they should have managed Kossa's start a little bit better. But to be honest with you, I don't think that there was ever a game plan or a plan A that had Kossa's name in the starter's net. That's the thing.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's tough to justify whether the Red Wings would have done better. You know, at the end of the day, you got the dub. Like you keep on saying, Dubs in the chat, obviously, Dubs in the chat. That's all that matters. But it does pique my interest of knowing, had the Red Wings started a Sebastian Cossa, could they have won this game? I actually do believe so. I think he got snubbed. And not because I wish that his parents or his agent or anyone could have been there. I actually prefer that they weren't there. I think that would have improved him a little bit better. I think having family and friends might actually bring the nerves up a little bit more. But exactly like you said, he said that he loves playing under pressure.
And if I could top up, because you talk about, you know, the future of Cossa, I just want to add this in. We don't got to spend too much time on it, but Trey Augustine, I don't know if you saw the clip of him in the shootout.
Yep.
But player comes in, Trey robs him with his glove and then throws the puck at him. It was awesome. I was like, oh my God, I cannot wait for Cossa and Augustine as our duo. It's going to be insane. It's going to be a great problem because you're not going to know who to start. You're going to get in fights with yourself to figure out, should we start Cossa or Augustine tonight? Because they're both going to be playing ridiculous. Look at them. They're both studs. Anyways, I just wanted to add that in there because it's a really good problem to have.
You're good. Just want to toss out a funny question here. Do you think the younger goaltending generation is just a bunch of Marc-Andre Fleury's out there just roasting, you know, the ops and even their teammates in practice? I would pay a subscription for goalies to be mic'd up and just listen to the goalies for a full 60 minutes of a hockey game. Just to see what goes on.
There's this one goalie on, I think he's on Instagram, but he's always, it's like beer league stuff, right? Like he's just,
I think I know who you're talking about.
And he's always mic'd up, and the shit he says is incredible. It's hilarious. I gotta find that and send it to you. But yeah, man, I would totally pay for something like that. I think the NHL has such a big opportunity to add, like, I'm saying this because of that Amazon Prime documentary that came out, but like there's such a big opportunity to close the gap between the players, their personalities, and the fan base. Just like that, with behind the scenes, whether it's a mic, whether you got a camera. I mean, dude, everybody's camera in their pocket shoots 4K. There's no reason to not have some more, you know, I guess, intimate access to the team and whether they're on or off the ice. And I feel like that's a huge part of the NHL closing the gap and possibly growing the game. But to your point, yes, I would absolutely pay for something like that. That would be hilarious.
It would be. Carlo, let's take a second and say thanks to the viewers, the watchers, the listeners, however you find us, watch us, listen to us. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. It's the Sunday Scaries. But Carla, you know where I'm going at with this. We want to stop and say thank you. If you are returning, thank you for returning. If you are new and you haven't already viewing us on YouTube, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button? That's what helps us keep our lights on and keep the studio up and running. It definitely takes us to where we need to go and keep on providing you, the viewers, the fans, watchers, listeners, our takes and opinions on the Detroit Red Wings and what's going on in the NHL. And we love hearing from you guys. You can also go ahead and leave us a comment down below, your thoughts and opinions on this episode so far and overall about the Detroit Red Wings. You can also view us on Spotify. Yeah, you can view us on Spotify. Our episode recordings are actually uploaded onto there. You can listen to us, and then you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts as well. Carlo, I think we might try to get on Rumble. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, hey, man, I think it's a really good idea to kind of cover some more ground whenever the opportunity is there. So we'll definitely be looking into getting on Rumble for sure, because it's another platform that seems to be starting to really get some momentum. So it'd be silly not to, right?
Absolutely. I have the app. I hardly use it, but I at least have the app on my phone. Yeah, we're also on all social media platforms like Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram, all those cool social media platforms. But yeah, go ahead and give us a follow. We are primarily on Twitter, X. That's where we're the most engaged. So go ahead and give us a follow. And yeah, Carlo, subscribing is free, and following us and liking all of our stuff is free. I don't know if you knew that.
Free?
We're bringing it back. It's free.
Wow.
It really does.
That's a hell of a deal. It's a hell of a deal. You know what? It really does help us out. And to be honest with you, it really allows us to keep our takes and our opinions 100% organic and authentic. There's really, as you guys have seen, especially for the viewers that are returning, there's really no filter here. We call it like we see it. The eye test is real, and we also work in some stats because, shocker, stats are a part of the game. But the point is that it's 100% authentic, it's genuine, and it's organic, it's raw, and that's kind of the whole thing why we like to do this on our own, so we can continue to do that and not really have any biases filter in or anything like that. So, like Zach said, these follows, these likes, any contribution at all really goes a long way. We appreciate it. It is free to do, which is probably the best deal out there. It's Black Friday every Sunday, called Black Sunday because it's free. And we love it. We love you, and we love doing this. So yeah, that's a little bit about how we can keep this thing rolling, just like hopefully the Red Wings can keep on rolling. I think Zach's trying to do sign language.
I don't know. My hearts are funky always.
Got it. Either a gang sign or a sign language. Either way, impressive.
Let's move it along. Let's go into the Red Wings versus Flyers game, and this one's going to be short because it was Talbot and net. Sherratt makes it 2-1 late in the third. Flyers win 3-1 with an empty net goal. Actually, I think they won 4-1, so I missed one there.
They did win 4-1 because Lofton scored 4 goals.
All 4 goals.
Which was really something. I will say the one goal he scored where he came in, they couldn't solve Talbot. Talbot was playing unreal until Lofton came in on a breakaway and absolutely wired one. Slap shot on a breakaway. That was unreal. His celly was unreal. That was, you gotta call it spade to spade. That was unreal. That was a great sequence and a great goal. But 4 goals by the same guy.
Yeah, I mean, the Flyers, after the second goal, they definitely pre-planned it for him to just continue on the scoring, right, at the end of the day. But yeah, I wouldn't sit here and say that this was all Talbot's fault. I think the team, I'm going to be honest, I watched the first period. I went and played soccer, came back. It was like midway through the third, and I was like, what the hell happened with this team? Everyone's just blowing up. Everyone's saying they didn't show up. I watched the first period. It was right then and there. I was like, wow, this is going to be a really boring hockey game. And it was at the end of it, because I went back and rewatched it, and I was like, wow, I'm so glad I didn't waste my time. I rewatched it, so I still wasted my time, I guess. But yeah, I really didn't miss out on anything. Carlo, go ahead and help out going in depth on this.
I think you pretty much covered it, man. It was really a game to forget about. They didn't play well. They got outshot bad by Villie.
At least Talbot saved a potential Michigan goal from Michkov.
He did, yeah. That was weird. I think, who was it? I think it was Ken Daniels that said that was the first time he saw the Michigan attempt go low. It actually might have been Mickey that called that out, but typically they tuck in right under the bar,
Right.
but he was more like kind of where the blocker was. So I don't know if that was a miss on Michkov's part, but nonetheless, Talbot was locked in. He looked good. Don't let the score sheet fool you. Like he looked really, really good. He made some big time saves, and really kept this game to I guess, I mean, it's still embarrassing to lose 4-1 to the Flyers, but I think it very well could have been like 6-1 and that's without an empty net goal, by the way. Like Talbot was that good.
I think what happened was too, though, Andrew Kopp, after he scored the goal the previous game, he went to Ben Sherrod saying, "Hey, Hockeytown Rundown just called you out. I think you need to score a goal since you don't have any this season," and finally got his first one. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's just coincidental. Like coincidence has got to be lined up like really perfectly. It's kind of weird that we're seeing Kopp score 2, Sherrod score 2, and then we get into the Toronto game, and that was like, I'm still flabbergasted at how all that went down. With these players that I've been calling completely undesirable, making me eat my words. So, I mean, if that's what it takes, please, by all means, continue to watch the pod. We'll continue to give you our raw takes. If that's what's firing you guys up to go and produce, I'm in. I'm all in.
I'm all in with you. Poker chips all in. Yeah, let's just go ahead and jump right into the Leafs game. With that being said, Carlo, you did have Villie Husso back in net. Talbot is actually out with a lower body injury, so they actually had to call up Jack Campbell on Friday. And then Marco Kasper was out due to an illness. And my first thought with that was, okay, let's see how bad this team is going to be without someone like Marco Kasper. And I think you were probably just as shocked as I was. They actually looked very good in this game. Petrie scores the first goal of the game, 1-0. Leafs score. You had Lyon doing a coach's challenge for offside, and it was called no goal. Credit to the video coaches, right, Carlo?
17 consecutive challenges that have gone their way.
They get really good angles, bro. Like, it's very impressive. And it makes me want to say the NHL should hire the Red Wings video coaches to do this all the time, but I don't want to lose them because it helps us. I don't want them helping the rest of the league.
Well, I watched post game last night, and they asked Snoozy about that, and he's like, the rule we have is that we don't challenge unless it's 100%. Like it's got to be 100%, or we're not challenging. Which is obviously a great protocol to have, because like, what's the point if it's not 100%? You're just gambling, and
Sure.
Things typically don't go that way when you're gambling with Detroit. So I like that rule. But what he said was they didn't have a clear view until the Sportsnet crew got one eventually, because they almost didn't challenge that, I guess. And then the Sportsnet angle came through, they saw it, and then challenged it, and obviously Marner's goal got taken back. I thought that was very interesting.
That's good. Great.
We'll take it.
I'll take that all day. But nonetheless, the Leafs do tie it in the second on the power play. Sider scores to make it 2-1. Leafs tie it in the third to make it 2-2. And then Petrie gets the second goal of the game to take the lead 3-2. And then you got Lucas Raymond with the empty netter goal to seal the deal, 4-2 win against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Carlo, the goods. Husso, 23 saves on the 25 shots, 920 save percentage. Petrie, 2 goals. He also heard and listened to the podcast. Sider and Raymond goals. They continue to light it up, especially Lucas Raymond. And then most importantly, Carlo, 2 points. Dubs in the chat. Your thoughts and opinions on the game?
I thought it was a fun game. Another one of those games. Like, it was fun to watch. I thought Detroit shut down their top line very well for the most part. I mean, you still got to respect the fact that their top line is their top line, and they're the best in the business, one of them at least. And I thought Detroit did a good job shutting them down. Didn't see a whole lot of Larkin offensively, but I saw a lot of Larkin defensively, right? And that's A-okay, because he was getting help from Jeff Petrie, which is I don't think I've ever would have imagined that. So loved it. I love that. Looking at the game, the way it all worked out in terms of the way it went. We limited our giveaways, which is great. That was very close and very tight with Toronto. We had 12, they had 9. But lately, like, when we lose games, it's because we're giving away the puck like upwards of 20 times a game. There's going to be giveaways in a game, like 100%. But like 20, If you can limit that down to like the 8 to 12 range, you have a better chance of winning automatically. And they did that. They limited those down, which is great. They were blocking some shots, some key shots. I noticed that they had some big blocks on. And overall, I thought it was, again, a fun game to watch. It was entertaining. And Villie Husso, man, he just was a rock. Dialed in, making key saves, several key saves, especially that breakaway on Marner. That was awesome. And that was a huge turning point, I think, for that game.
Are we starting to see offensive Moritz Seider come out more? Because in the last 3 games, he's got 2 goals. Are we starting to see more production out of him? I believe that's his 4th goal of the season. Do you foresee Moritz Seider getting 10 goals this season?
Yeah, I can see that. If he continues to play on the I guess the path that he's on. Yeah, I think he can get to 10 for sure. Is it his offensive breakout? It could be. I don't know if it's like by assignment. I think it's just out of frustration at this point. Like he's just like, that's Seider though. He's a gamer. Like he's like, enough of this. Let's go. Like I'll go and do it.
I think that's, sorry to cut you off there. And I think that's part of the reason why we continuously see him keep on getting the A on his sweater too, right? Is because he's almost saying to the coaching staff, I'm assuming he's showing his frustrations, right? Saying, all right, let me put the team on my back. I'm going to do more out there. And he sees that we're not getting the production side out of the defense as we have seen last year, right? So, and even on the forward end this year, we're not really seeing it. So for him to do something like this, yeah, that's probably what he's doing. And that's his, I think the word you were going to use was trajectory earlier. But yeah, I think Moritz Seider really can get 10 goals this season. And I think that we're going to see a lot more offensive production out of him, Carlo.
I really hope you're right. You know, after this Philly game, I put out a tweet, you know, calling out basically everybody on the team except for Ray and Mo, because they're the only ones that look like they have gotten better this going into this season. Let's call us like they've looked like they've gotten better each year they've played. I think Seider a little bit more than Ray, because Ray did have a bit of a sophomore slump, but that's in the past now, because last year and this year he's just continues to tick on and tick on and tick on. But none of the other players really look like they've gotten better. You could probably argue for a lot of them that they've gotten worse. One thing I know for sure, though, and back to your point, you know, that A on Moritz sweater needs to become permanent. I am 100% a belief of that. He is earning it. I think he has earned it, but now he's earning it game after game, and just the way he's playing and the way he's literally putting things on his back and just doing the do. Give that guy the A permanently. And then, of course, you could probably argue the same for Lucas Raymond as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I agree with you 100% that Moritz Seider moving forward, which we probably will see. I don't know if they keep on continuously doing, you know, the home games, he gets the A, and then when they're away, they give it to whoever else. But at this point, instead of the flip-flopping, just give it to one of those 2 guys at the end of the day. But I firmly believe next season should be that time when both of those guys should have A's on their jerseys, because exactly like you said, they are the 2 people who are stepping up on this team. You can include Simon Edvinsson on there. I think you can include most of the rookies. Maybe not. I'm going to take that back. I think you can toss in Marco Kasper in there too. But those 2, Lucas Raymond, Moritz Seider, the 2 who just signed the biggest deals of their lives so far, right, with this team in the offseason. They are leading this team through and through. Without them, just imagine what it would be like without them. For a second,
I don't want to. I'm not going to imagine that. Please don't make me imagine that. We're not doing this.
Carlo, let's go ahead and touch on some of the Red Wings news. It's very light. It's not news anymore, but the Red Wings did assign Sebastian Cossa to the AHL Grand Rapids Griffins on Wednesday, and then they recalled up Jack Campbell due to Cam Talbot being injured. And then Max Plante, forward from UMD men's hockey, has been added to the preliminary roster of the 2025 U.S. National Junior team. And I believe that was his head coach giving him high praise, saying like, yeah, he's only played a couple games with us, but I firmly believe that he is someone that the USA roster could have on their team. So he's getting a lot of high praises. We're seeing that I believe he's essentially a point per game player right now, but yeah, and sorry for saying UMD like you were expecting, or I expected you to know what team that is. That's the University of Minnesota Duluth. And then in his 5 games with them, he has 6 points, 2 goals, 4 assists. So
That's awesome.
Hopefully he's a lock for the team. But Carlo, let's go ahead and touch on around the league news, and then we'll touch on the main topics because I feel like it makes more sense to do it this way because we got a couple trades to announce.
Yeah, but before you do that, we do have some breaking news.
Sure. Okay.
Jack Campbell has been assigned to the Grand Rapids Griffins. So
all right,
that just came out, and obviously it looks like Lyon is probably ready to go and possibly playing on Wednesday against Villie.
Or it could be Talbot. And we forgot to mention Talbot was honored on the game against the Toronto Maple Leafs for his 500th game. So really cool stick. You know, he got honored, got a couple players to.
Claps to Talbot.
Yep.
I
forgot that. So sorry, Talbot. It's okay though. We're gonna talk more about him, obviously. It could be Talbot, it could be Lyon coming back. Who knows? I know that they said it was just a lower body with Talbot, but they said it shouldn't be too severe. But we'll see. Maybe they'll give him a little bit more time, which makes the most sense. Be precautionary with these goaltenders. You only got so many of them, as it shows down below. Around the league news, talking about a couple of trades. You had the Colorado Avalanche making another trade for a goaltender, Carlo. They just completely changed their whole entire starting season goaltending tandem that they had. Now they ended up getting Mackenzie Blackwood and Giovanni Smith and a 2027 5th-round pick from the San Jose Sharks. And the Sharks receive Alexander Gorgiev, forward Nikolai Kovalenko, and then a 25 5th-round pick and a 26 second-round pick.
Wow.
Thoughts on this trade, Carlo?
Interesting. I mean, Gorgiev's he's a good goaltender, man. It's just I don't know. It wasn't working out for him this year. So you know what they say, right? When you're good and then you kind of fall off a cliff, it's like, okay, change of scenery, start fresh, start with a new club. Going to San Jose boded well for Jake Wallman. Hopefully it bodes well for Alexander Gorgiev. And I think Giovanni Smith going to Colorado, if he plays for Colorado, that's huge. To have that guy in your bottom 6, knocking people around, playing with the bite that he does, I think that could turn out very well, especially if Colorado goes on a run.
I think this was a good trade for San Jose. I mean,
they cleaned it up.
They got a second for just taking on Gorgiev, essentially. Yeah. At the end of the day, I think this is a win more so for San Jose. I don't like the goaltending tandem in Colorado. I don't think that fixes their situation. But I know that they were looking for goalies that had experience in the league. And I always go back and I'm thinking, well, we got a Villie Husso. We have I guess you could say Alex Lyon. I'm honestly surprised we didn't try making a trade with them. Obviously, Colorado needed the other team to take a goalie back that had cap. So the other trade would be Cam Fowler to the St. Louis Blues and a 27 4th-round pick. And then to the Ducks, a 27 2nd-round pick, and then defenseman Jeremy Biakapatuka. And I'm able to say that name because he's very familiar to the Detroit Red Wings, where he's been to a couple training camps and everything like that. So, Carlo, your thoughts on this trade real quick? I wish Steve Yzerman did this for the Red Wings because I know Cam Fowler actually has a home in Michigan.
I hear you, but again, it comes back to my comments from last week where I just don't think Anaheim desired anybody on our team to make a trade like that. I don't know. This trade to me is Anaheim. I mean, I don't know.
You don't think that the Ducks? So you're saying that the Red Wings don't have anyone in comparison to a Jeremy Biakapatuka that they would have wanted?
I think it's more of looking at the 2nd-round pick. Are you comfortable giving Anaheim a 2nd-round pick? I'm not.
If they would have taken Justin Hall, yeah.
Well, then you look at Hall, and then you do your player comp after that. I mean, I think Hall's a little bit older, not that desirable when it comes to his play. So at the end of the day, we're losing a 2nd-round pick to trade or rid of one of these guys. I'm just like, we are where we are. Let's just ride this out. And we
But
like that trade's not gonna save this team. Like if Cam
No.
Fowler's on the Detroit blue line, we have Cam Fowler and we have one less second round pick. Did it make anything better? No, it's I don't think so. So for me, it's like a pass. It's like, okay, next. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess what I'm ultimately trying to get at is I'm not upset that we didn't get this trade. You know, like I would have loved to have gotten a Cam Fowler, and I do believe he would have been an upgrade from a Jeff Petrie or a Justin Hall. But I guess my frustration is Steve knows that this team is doing what it's doing, and all these other teams are making moves, and the only move we have seen him make was trading Ole Mata for a third. Could that potentially be the only trade that we see out of Steve Yzerman? Yeah,
I think you just want to trade really bad for the sake of having a trade. I do think that's in there a little bit.
Well, it makes the season a little more interesting.
Yeah, I know. You're right.
So, but no, I mean, it just sparks my brain and gets the motors running, you know, and continues my point of that I can't remember if I said it last episode or not, but I've been saying it to people off air too, is that did Steve Yzerman go into this season knowing that this team wasn't going to be good and that he wanted it to go in that direction? Because if he did not, we probably would have seen some sort of change by now, whether if that's a player situation or a coaching situation or what have you. Carlo, he's done nothing. So that's kind of why I was asking, are you surprised? You know, like I would have liked a Cam Fowler, you know, but I'm already at the point where my main focus the rest of the season is to watch players grow and develop still. So still that includes Moritz Seider, Lucas Raymond, that's Marco Kasper, that's Edvinsson, that's Berggren. But I'd like to see some more wins out of it too, if I could.
Well, yeah, of course you would as a fan, right? But I mean, personally, I'm already, my mind's in like off season and the off season after that. And I think that's when things start to move the way we would like to see them, especially you. I don't know if there's going to be like a trade frenzy, but I think you're going to really start to see.
I guess what I'm trying to say is too, I'm also ready for us to just announce, okay, we're just running out the rest of the season, so we're just going to start picking off everyone. That's kind of what I'm getting at now.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be careful with that too, though.
Sure. Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I mean, I feel at this point, Steve Yzerman has to be having that foresight thought that he's now figuring out. Like, I think he's thinking way beyond this season or the game against Villie personally. Like, he kind of have to be.
Yeah, and that's kind of why my thought, like I said, backtracking, is saying he went into this season knowing that this season wasn't going to be good and hasn't done anything because he doesn't want it to jeopardize with his next season plan. So, with what you just said.
Yeah. Yeah, I fully agree with that. I feel like he's going to ride this out. And I feel like I'm hopeful. Like, if it was, I'm just trying to like figure out, like, if I'm in this guy's shoes, what's like my game plan would be like, let's just let this happen. We're doing this on this day of the offseason, and we're going to try and do this. And we're going to try hard to do this. And that's hopefully bringing in a key free agent piece that's not a whiff. And then next season happens. Do we overproduce? Do we have a season like last year? Do we shit the bed like this year? Who knows? Let's get there. Then that offseason happens. We're doing this. We're going to try to do this. And then you start injecting some of your very talented prospects. And then you start to see the wheels turning. That's what I'm hoping for. But I don't think making a trade for the sake of making a trade this season, I just don't see the value or the stock in it. I mean, it sucks to say that because now we're left with watching this product for, another, whatever it is, 40 games, 50 games. I don't know. Where are we at? Third, just about a halfway point, 40 games, call it. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. This is the situation that we're in. And it sucks, but I'm still confident that there is, quote unquote, an Yzer plan. Maybe it's an Yzer plan 2.0, like we alluded to last week. But I'm very confident that there still is a plan in play. And that plan doesn't have anything to do with making trades to make trades this year. That's pretty evident thus far.
And I think that that is a good segue into our main topic, Carlo. And before I continue on with that segue, I just do want to mention too that the Ducks did retain $2.5 million and Fowler's $6.5 million contract remaining over this year and next year. And then Kevin Shattenkirk retires with the Blues. He did play for the Blues, the Avs, the Caps, the Rangers, Lightning, Bruins, and Ducks. And as y'all can tell based on the thumbnail of this episode, if you can see that, and then the rundown here below, if you are watching us, we're going to be talking about the goaltending and what does the Yzer plan feature with them. We all know Cossa is going to be the number one goaltender of this team of the future in tandem with Trey Augustine. Maybe it's a 1AB situation. Maybe there is a clear number one. Maybe there is a clear number two. But this primarily is going to be talking about Villie Husso and his stock uprising and if there is a trade market for any of the Detroit Red Wings goaltenders, because I think all of them listed down below here, Carlo, could be traded at the trade deadline. I do think that is part of the Steve Yzer plan, as you were mentioning earlier.
Absolutely.
I really do think so, and especially Talbot. Some people think that he is the best goaltender that you could trade because
he's the most desirable. He's hands down the most desirable. Look at his
contract. Contract term, length, all that stuff. And so the stats too. I mean, but let's talk about Husso. Could the Red Wings trade a goalie and then looking at Villie Husso's stock being increased? Yeah, in the month of December, Villie Husso has started in 5 games. He did have to come in and relieve against the Vancouver Canucks. That was on December 21st. He did allow 3 goals in on the 18 shots against, and then he did have to actually come out against the Buffalo Sabres, like we mentioned, for Sebastian Cossa to come in. And those 2 games, those didn't help out his goals against average, because especially against the Buffalo Sabres game, he actually came out with a 9.0 goals against average. But for the month of December, Carlo, he's looked really good. I mean, a 305, the stats really don't show it, but overall, once he continues on, if he keeps on putting up these, 23 save nights, with 25 shots against, the save percentage is just going to keep on increasing. But a 305 goals against, and then an 894 save percentage for the month of December. And Carlo, that was his first win since 2023 of December 13th, I believe, was the official date. I don't know
if his injuries and stuff. That. Yeah, no, you're dead right, and that's crazy. And he deserved that win. He really earned himself that win for sure. I just think when it comes to him and his trade value do I think it's going up? Yeah. I mean, he's playing well, and who doesn't want a goalie that's playing well? A hot goalie is a hot goalie. But I guess I got to caution. I'm not calling Villie Husso a hot goalie. Cam Talbot is a hot goalie, but Villie Husso, there might be a spark happening there that could erupt into that flame that makes him a hot goalie, but that requires him to play more games. And frankly, I think Snoozy's just going to keep going back to Talbot. I think he's going to be managed now because he's kind of tweaked a couple things. So I think you're going to see maybe some more Husso, but then you have Lyon now, who's also playing pretty well too. So it's a really interesting situation that we're in now, because you have a goalie playing really well in Talbot. You have Lyon, the guy has just been playing great since he's been a Detroit Red Wing.
He's doing just as well as Talbot is.
You know what I mean? And then you have Villie Husso, who's starting to kind of get his steps in again and get his reps in again and start to get there. So if he can get there, then there probably is a market, especially come, trade deadline. A lot could happen from now until trade deadline. And there could be teams that aren't thinking about managing a goalie's workload, but all of a sudden February rolls around and you know what? We got to think about managing this guy's workload so we can, we can go on a deeper run here. And that's when I think the Husso discussion might pop up.
And you also got to think about this year compared to previous years. You never had a 4 Nations tournament either, where you have a lot of team star goaltenders going in there and injuries happen all the time. Hey. And that's the last thing that these teams want, is their star goaltenders getting injured. And that's potentially where the Red Wings, like you said, the Detroit Red Wings could potentially make a move come trade deadline, and that's probably where we will see Steve Yzerman's next move, because not too often do we see him making mid-season trades before the trade deadline, even weeks leading up to the trade deadline, right? But you brought up all the other goalies, so let's talk about their stats too. Cam Talbot, the star of the goaltenders of this team. In the 16 games that he started in, he has a 2.69 goals against average with a 9.16 save percentage, 6.62 record and then 1 shutout. So Alex Lyon, 9 games starting in, 2.75 goals against and a 9.11 save percentage with a 4.4 record with a 1 shutout win. And then Villie Husso overall, we talked about his December stats, but his overall, it's looking better. It's 8.347 goals against and an 8.77 save percentage, 1.4 and 2. And then Sebastian Cossa obviously having his 1 win, but his stats don't really matter. We're not going to go too in depth with him, but we all know he's the future and that he should be on this team next year. You have Alex Lyon expiring this year. You have Villie Husso also expiring this year. Husso, Carlo, I would say he probably is third on the list. I think if teams wanted a goaltender from the Detroit Red Wings, it would go Talbot, Lyon, Husso. But I think the Red Wings would try their hardest to trade probably Lyon, only because his cap, his term, it just works the best with all these teams, because I got a list of teams here I'm actually going to suggest to you on if they may have interest in any of these goaltenders, and I want you to try to make the argument as to why they would want to try and make a trade or why they possibly would not. I got Vegas Golden Knights as one of the teams here. I just personally believe that them, with the way that their standings are and the way that the West is, that they could use an upgrade. Yeah, you have Aiden Hill, the goaltender, who essentially just led them to winning the Stanley Cup, right? But he's got a year left on his contract. Then they also have Ilya Samsonov as the backup. He's not really having the greatest season in the 10 games. He's got a 316 goals against and an 896 save percentage. When you're going into a playoff situation, and if Aiden Hill gets injured or something like that, you want to have a solid, sturdy backup. Do you think the Red Wings have anyone that a Vegas Golden Knights would want? They have about $1.765 million in current cap space right now.
I could see Lyon being desirable for the Vegas Golden Knights. And to be quite honest with you, that one kind of makes sense for the Red Wings too, because you're definitely not retaining anything like you may have to with Villie Husso, which I don't think we're in the business to have any cap retain, anything restraining us, especially going into some critical off seasons here. So I could see Vegas being, having some big interest in Alex Lyon for sure. The way he's been playing, his contract, all that stuff. But again, it comes down to what they are going to trade back as well, because you got to remember, if, GM of any team is going to be like, well, Lyon's going to be a free agent next season. So should we just wait till next season and get him for free? Or do we make the move now, sign him and extend him, whatever the case may be? But, I mean, realistically, Vegas, if they could make room for him on his roster or on their roster, he could just jump right into that team right now. Granted, again, that they can make it work and have him in the roster because they do have the money to take him on. But then it's like I selfishly think like, well, he's making $900,000. Let's just keep him. Unless, of course, the return has some oomph to it. But to answer your question, Vegas, I think, would be interested in Lyon the most. Because I feel like Talbot's non-negotiable. I feel like Talbot's not going anywhere.
How about someone like the Edmonton Oilers? With their current situation, goaltending's never been their bright spot, right? You have Stuart Skinner basically as their main starter, making $2.6 million for another year after this year. Then you got Calvin Pickard, same situation. They have him for another year at $1 million. And I think, honestly, this is a team that probably wants a veteran goaltender. So, I mean, all three of our goaltenders technically are veteran goaltenders at this point, right? Maybe Lyon's the lesser of the other two. But do you think there's a space for Edmonton and Detroit making a trade?
Yeah, again, I feel like when you look at these goalies below here, Lyon's the most desirable one because of his contract and the way he's playing. Edmonton's in the same position as Vegas. They could just take him on right now.
Yeah, and with Edmonton, they have $1.184 million in cap space currently.
So exactly. So they could do it again. Granted, they can make the roster construction work. They could just take him on and start playing him right away. But I feel like they very well could be interested in an Alex Lyon because they've always kind of like succumbed to goaltending. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if they could have a boost in net, that would be a pretty good boost for them. And that could be the goaltender that takes them to the promised land, because they're there. Their window's there. Their window's they're in their window.
I think that's pretty much them every year, though. I think that's always the speculation that the Edmonton Oilers are always in the goaltending market because year after year, their goaltending just never improves and they still never end up doing anything with it. So we'll just have to wait and see with them. But the next team that I have on board here is the Ottawa Senators. You actually brought them up, I believe it was. And this is a team who just got Linus Ullmark. They signed him to that extension at $8.25 million. Their backup is Anton Forsberg, who is not having the greatest season at all in the 11 games. He's got a 2.95 goals against average and an 8.89 save percentage. And they have him on the team for one more year. I think this is where you potentially could see a situation where you could trade a Ville Husso to this team and just take on Anton Forsberg and
For a
maybe
year.
acquire like a third or something. I don't know. Your thoughts on potentially the Ottawa Sens making sense for Ville Husso? We keep on talking about Alex Lyon, but let's see if we can make sense for Ville Husso in this situation.
Yeah, so this one, so if you think about this one, the reason why I kind of went with Ottawa here is because, so let's say you, like what you just said pans out, you trade Husso, you take back Anton Forsberg. Forsberg's not going to play that much for the remainder of this year. We can float the money, we can float the deal. We got rid of Husso. But the thing is we're getting rid of Husso anyway after this season. Like, he's off the books anyway after this season. The only way I can think of this making sense is if Detroit's gearing up for something big as well at the trade deadline, which I don't think is likely. Because, again, I think the big play for Detroit is free agency, and Husso's off the books, just like Anton Forsberg would be off the books as well. This one would probably be more of a helpful thing to Ottawa because I think Husso's probably a better goalie than Anton Forsberg. Again, he's sparked. He needs to stay hot. He's got the time to get to trade deadline to kind of sell that idea. And at that point, are we getting what kind of assets are we getting back? Again, it's what's the return? Like, that's the part. Like, we can find the partners is one thing, but then we got to go into what could the return possibly be too. Because if it's just making the trade to take on a goalie with less cap, I don't see the point in that because these guys are both off the books anyways. And I don't see us being big players at the trade deadline. And frankly, we're probably going to be sellers. And that's going to include guys that are not named Ville Husso. It's going to be guys like with brand power that are on our team.
Yeah. Try to make sense, as much sense as I could for a Ville Husso trade. The Red Wings would definitely have to retain at least some cap. If not, if the Red Wings would refuse to retain cap, they would have to take on Anton Forsberg and more than likely another player's contract because their current cap situation is $1.317 million. So still, it's just really hard to make a Ville Husso trade work for any team. It would have to take a lot of cap manipulation to make it overall work. But that's not to say that, I mean, we still believe that his stock in terms of trade value is going up. But
yeah, it is. For sure it is.
That's what
the more he plays, the more it goes up, man.
Exactly.
But that's the big question. And I think that's the main question here is Talbot comes back, Lyon comes back. How many games is Husso going to get?
Yeah, and it all depends, does Linus Ullmark start kicking the can a little bit? Does he
just started heating up, dude.
But
Ullmark just started heating up, dude. He looks playing out of his mind. But is it sustainable? Do they have to manage his workload? Do they manage his workload at the cost of putting in a goaltender who's nowhere near playing at the level that Ullmark is? I mean, that's an Ottawa problem, right? But
I did see this wild, crazy stat, though, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember it off the top of my dome, when the Senators have a goaltender that puts up over a 900 save percentage, they're like 48 and like 2 with their record or something crazy like that. So if you look at someone like Anton Forsberg, if you replace him with a Ville Husso, I do think that's an upgrade.
Yeah.
And if you get 3 more wins out of that for the Sens, that puts them in a playoff situation, and that's what the Sens are looking for. So, yeah, I think the Sens probably are the most likely team in the NHL to make a trade for a backup that could actually get them wins. not named Anton Forsberg because he is not getting it done for them. So
Yep.
The next team that we have up, Carlo, actually is the Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't see a Villie Husso trade working out here, but I do see space where the Tampa Bay Lightning want to upgrade their backup goaltending from a Jonas Johansson. He's a big boy. He's 6'5". They probably really like that. But in the 6 games that he's played, he's got a 3.84 goals against and a 8.82 save percentage, Carlo. What goalie do you think that they could benefit from the Detroit Red Wings? Obviously, maybe like an Alex Lyon because of that cap situation. But do we see any team potentially wanting a Cam Talbot? Because I think his contract's still a hit, and he's got the term.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Yeah, I just personally, selfishly, I don't want to trade Cam Talbot because,
and we probably won't.
I mean, I don't think we will. I mean, put it this way, dude. If Cam Talbot wasn't in net, Cam Talbot's not on this team, what's our record? Like we would be in even more trouble than we're in already. So I don't think Talbot's going anywhere. And if the idea or the thought of Talbot going anywhere even came about, then I'm like, my first question is, what is the return? What are we getting back? Because that's what at that point, you sell me on the fact that, hey, we want Talbot. Okay.
Here's the thing, though, is that you look at previous goalie trades. I mean, you even look at some of the ones that have happened so far with the Colorado Avalanche. I mean, you're getting essentially backup goalies, and then you're shipping off your really bad goalies. So they're not the best like comparables to make to the example I'm trying to make here. But nonetheless, sorry, went down a little rabbit hole there. But yeah, you're essentially all these teams that we just mentioned. You're not trading one of our goalies to make that other team's number one goaltender. It is essentially for a backup role. So in the sight of what you're getting in a return, Carlo, honestly, probably nothing more than a third if you're even lucky.
For Talbot?
To be honest with you. Maybe Talbot, maybe you could get a little bit more.
Then I'm not interested in trading him.
The reason why you would be doing it, well, Carlo, you look at it this way, and that's the other thing too. I guess I'll touch on your point too, is that based on the way that the season has rolled out so far with this goaltender carousel, right? I mean, we have Jack Campbell up now. Well, they actually just sent him back down. Sorry. You look at the situation now with Grand Rapids, where once Cam Talbot and Alex Lyon are back, you're not keeping 3 goaltenders. So then you look at Grand Rapids. Now they have 3 goaltenders, and Husso, Jack Campbell, and Cossa. Let's say you do make it to the trade deadline, and you wanted to trade 1 or 2 of those goaltenders. I mean, looking at the season right now, Carlo, it's been a carousel. We've seen all the goaltenders called up essentially. Minus Skylander. We haven't seen Skylander yet. Thank goodness, right?
Never say never.
No offense to him. That's not a diss on him. But the way that this goaltending carousel is going, Carlo, does Steve Yzerman want Cossa to play with this team for 2 weeks after the trade deadline? Because we keep on seeing our goaltenders getting injured. If you trade one, then that's even more ample space for him to get a call up. Do we want that to happen, I guess, is my long-winded question here.
Okay, sorry, just summarize that for me. Do we want what to happen?
So if we do trade, and based on the way that some of these goaltenders are playing, because they keep on getting injured, are you okay with trading to, I guess it depends. Now I'm even losing myself here. If we trade, you're most certainly going to see more of Cossa. Based on the way that the injuries are happening.
I was just thinking that.
So is that something that Steve Yzerman wants to do anyways? Does he actually want to trade a goaltender right now? Because then that would mean that more than likely you're going to see more of Sebastian Cossa. Is that something that Steve Yzerman wants to do right now? But if a GM comes twisting your arm and says, I'll give you a third for Villie Husso, and you don't even have to retain salary, are you doing that? I would say yeah.
But again, though, like you would say yeah, but he's off the books after this season.
Take the third. Okay.
Yeah, no, I get it. Take the third for sure. We can get into a discussion later about the likelihood of that third round pick doing anything because Yzerman's later round picks haven't really done anything. But anyways, I don't know, dude. Like, this is my thing with that. if Detroit had the appetite to do something like that, and then as a result of that move, Cossa starts to come up, don't you think Cossa would have started a game?
Exactly.
Like that's the thing you got to look at. So I feel at the fact that they sheltered Cossa so much, did not start him when he could. There's probably 2 games he could have and should have started, and they didn't do it. That tells me there is absolutely no rush for Cossa, and that Cossa is not going to be the deciding factor on trading one of these goalies. I think you were close in saying if a GM comes twisting your arm and the offer is just, you can't refuse it, well, that's a different story, right? But I don't know, man. I feel like with Husso coming off the books this year, with Lyon coming off the books this year, that really puts water on the fire when it comes to having a flame behind trading a goaltender, whether their stock is high or not. Is Villie Husso's stock rising? Yeah. Do I think we're in a position where we absolutely need to get him off of the books? No. And, you look at the other 30 GMs, 31 GMs in the league, they also got to be looking at it as, well, why would we just go and give away a third? Like, and this is me. Why am I giving Steve Yzerman a 3rd-round pick for a goalie I can go pick up for free in a couple of months? There's got to be that discussion happening too, right?
Well, it all depends on the situation, and that's the hardest part about looking forward, right? Is that we don't know where these other 31 teams, what their situation's going to look like. Like I mentioned earlier, the Four Nations tournament, right? The regular season still will be underway.
Great points.
Injuries happen
right.
all the time. So yeah, there's GMs. Plenty of times we've seen it in the past where GMs. Well, who was it? It was Philly. Philly gave us, what was it, 2/3 for Peter Mrazek? Or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, there are teams that would do it just to say, well, we're trying to make the playoffs. We're trying to salvage this season just for a couple months. Yeah, teams do that all the time. We've seen the Red Wings do that, not for goaltenders, but we've seen them do that.
Yeah.
Zidlicki, Legwan, players like those. You know what I'm saying? So I do think that there is space there where anything is possible. Right now, it does not look like it, but I do believe, and we've seen Steve Yzerman make some pretty good trades. We're kind of blinded by some of the bad ones they just made recently, quote unquote, the Jake Wallman one. But
so wait, just Jake Wallman only has 1 less point than Dylan Larkin this year.
Don't get me started on that. His role increased over there. It is what it is.
He's a defenseman. And he has 1 less point than our top line center.
Hey, man, they got a Macklin Celebrini. We don't.
I'm biting my finger so hard right now that it drives me crazy. But anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Maybe I think Carlo a whole entire episode to.
I need a stress ball and a punching bag. But yeah, you're right. The Four Nations could change things. This is where we're at, I think, now. I'm hoping Husso gets some more games. If he's going to get traded, and if that's even a silver little lining of a game plan, then I would expect to see him play some more games over Lyon. So you're looking at a Talbot Husso Lyon slotting. That would tell me that, okay, maybe they are trying to trade Husso. Or maybe they're just riding the hot hand. Who knows? But to your point, Four Nations changes things. February is still a ways away. There's a lot of hockey that's going to be played now until then. And a lot of things could pop up for sure. So, if there's an opportunity now to really pump a stock, pump Husso, play him. If we lose, we lose. It's not like we're not going anywhere this season. So if you're trying to showcase him to get a trade done, then do it. I don't know how much, again, I don't know
how much high is the stock? Not that high. Is it rising though? It's rising.
It's rising. Yeah. But again, I think it's more or less, I think Detroit's content with riding the hot goalie. And if it's Talbot, obviously it is, then you're going to see a lot of Talbot. If Lyon comes in and he plays hot, you're going to see Lyon. Husso's back down the pecking order. I don't think they're going to showcase Husso like crazy to try and trade him. I think they're going to probably opt for letting the season ride out and riding the hot hand now until then.
There was a reason why he was the goalie who ended up getting waived too, right? Out of the 3, right? So, and no team wanted him.
There you go.
How is that going to change moving forward? Once again, I still believe that there is capacity for a trade to be made with Villie Husso if the Red Wings do continue utilizing him. Like I said, all it takes is one team to just have a goalie injury. So We will have to wait and see, folks,
We will.
boys and girls.
We will.
Carlo, I think that's it. I think we can wrap up this episode, right?
We can give it a wrap.
Get ready for some football. It's
Yep.
noon. Carlo's got to get going. I got to do things with my dogs. But yeah, nonetheless, Carlo, final thoughts, buddy. Let her rip.
Final thoughts build off of the game against Toronto. Great game. They played well. Husso played well, which we talked about in detail and in depth of what that could do for not only Villie Husso, but for this team. That's the springboard right there that I hope you jumped off of and you nail the dive. I really, really hope they can come out playing well against Philly. It's a 3-day break. So that'll be a really, really good test against the Philadelphia team that beat them 4-1, outshot them 36-26. Let's see how they come out and play against Philly. I believe they got a bit of a homestand now. So let's see. I mean, they're not completely out of this thing. They're not. The Atlantic Division's doing them all sorts of favors with the lockness and the tightness within that, those groups of teams. So frankly, the whole division's kind of nuts, but if they could find themselves and put together 8 wins, they could go into something, right? And it's possible. We've seen Edmonton do it, January, turn things around. We saw St. Louis do it when they won the Cup, turned it around in January. I am not saying Detroit's going to win the Cup, full disclosure. But like Zach said many times this episode, anything's possible. So my final thoughts are, I really hope they can springboard off of that win. That's a big, big deal. And we got a big, gritty game. Grit versus grit in Detroit versus Buffalo at 4:25 today. I am so pumped to watch that game. Go Lions. Oh my God, I'm so fired up for that game. Woo! That's my final thought.
All right. I like it. Yeah, my final thoughts are give Moorhead Cider the A permanently. Red Wings feed off that dub against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Continue that moving forward. We may sound doom and gloom. I don't know. Maybe we don't to other people that watch and listen to us, but I'm really excited for the Red Wings prospects to continue thriving. That's what I'm taking out of this season. If the Red Wings continue losing or whatever happens, I actually really hope that we get a top 5 pick. I would be genuinely happy with that, with the growth of these young players too. But yeah, the Red Wings, all those guys.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. Don't worry. And then, yeah, the Red Wings will play the Flyers on Wednesday. So, yeah, you got a little break. That will be on TNT, True TV, and Max, it looks like, when I'm looking at it right now. But the Red Wings have a 12.9% chance of making the playoffs. Just kind of regarding what Carlo said, that was per Money Puck when I checked it this morning. Yeah, anything is possible. I'll say it for like the millionth time in this episode.
It's the thing, man.
It's the theme. Maybe we should have just made that the title of this episode, Carlo. Why don't you go ahead and let us know what you thought about this episode by leaving a comment down below. And while you're at it, why don't you go ahead and just hit that like button if you're viewing us on YouTube. And then you can hit that subscribe button as well. But if you're on Spotify or Apple, why don't you just rate us the 5 stars and hit that follow button. And until then, we'll see y'all on the next one. See ya.
See you guys.